The award-winning Tennessee Wildcast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tennessee Wildcast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching and listening. This week, we're going to have to keep moving on the ledge fishing
We
topic.
got so deep into it that we ran out of time.
Yeah.
So we just had to do a reprise here.
So we brought back Bill Dance Jason Holland to help us out.
I'm not nearly as good looking as Mr. Bill Dance.
No, we got Mr. Jason Holland back with us, and he's going to recap a little bit of what we talked about last week, but also dive deeper into some of the stuff, no pun intended, because we are fishing a little deeper.
We are.
Some of the things that we didn't get to cover last week. So
That's right. A little more in depth.
Yeah, it's this time of year. I mean, there's so much when it comes to offshore or ledge fishing, whatever terminology you want to use, that, we kind of I got sidetracked. I'll take full responsibility. I get fired up. This is it's probably my second favorite way to fish. Fall, fish in the grass. Nick and Jack is by far my favorite, but ledge fishing is right there. Because again, you can go out and you can have, 50, 60 fish days. That's not uncommon, and so you do a lot of work, and sometimes you only catch 5 or 6, and I still love it. But man, when you go catch 50 or 60, that's when you live it.
That's fishing.
Yeah, that's catching and loving every second of it.
Yeah.
That's when you get back in the truck after fishing all day and you're exhausted because it's 1,000 degrees and your side hurts a little bit from setting the hook so many times. Yeah, and your thumb looks like you put it in a meat grinder. Yes, sir. That's what brings us back every single time.
Those pictures, I can only imagine. Yeah. Well, I want to cover the raffle real quick. If y'all are following us at all, the raffle is going on right now. The Tennessee Conservation Raffle, sponsored by our Tennessee Wildlife Resources Foundation. 10 prizes, 10 packages, plus 100 additional prizes to be awarded. And that big item that everyone would love to have
$50,000 toward a Ford vehicle.
That's it. $50,000 voucher toward any Ford vehicle from Mid-South Ford dealers. There's a lot of those around Middle Tennessee and around this area. Even in northern Alabama, I believe. There's a lot of Mid-South Ford dealers. So you got many places to go find you a truck or a Bronco or a Ford Taurus if you want it.
Tell you what, I love those new Broncos.
Yeah, those are cool.
Those are really cool. I may have to go ahead. I'll just go ahead and tell everybody listening, don't get excited about that Ford package because I've already won it. I've already got my dibs on it.
So now if your name gets drawn,
that's going to be so weird.
That's a fishing forecast right there.
I feel like somebody's going to be investigating my prophecy. All right,
you better be ready to pass it on.
Look, we're going to pay that one forward to somebody else.
But anyway, we appreciate Bass Pro for throwing in a boat this year. The one that started it all, the elk hunt package, that's the premier elk zone 1 hunt with a rifle and boots and package from Danner there. Bass Pro again coming through with the UTV, the President's Island deer hunt, Final Flight, waterfowl hunt.
I'll take that one too.
Some of your friends, 4 people can go on this one, so that's cool. Thanks to Academy for all their support this year, especially with Free Fishing Day, and then with throwing in a $5,000 gift card, and a lot of fishing gear can be bought there.
Yeah, I'll take that one too.
Yeah.
Todd, write that down, will you? That's the 3 I'll take, please.
The turkey hunt package, Governor's One Shot with Preston Pittman, Best of the West long range shooting. One of these days we're going to advertise these from the ground up, so some of these get a little more airtime. The Henry rifle with the Foundation logo, and
the 3-star. I mean that thing's killer.
Mm-hmm.
Look good. I'll go ahead. Actually, I'm sorry, Todd. That's 4. I need that rifle too. All right, making sure we're all together.
And then if
last but not least, don't forget about the knives.
Yeah, 100
of those, right?
Yep. So if you don't win one of the Big 10, you got another 100 chances to take home a knife. So
yeah, I'm gonna need about 10,000 chances based on my luck. But this could be the turning point.
And those tickets break down. Did we go over that?
Go ahead.
Okay, one ticket, just $20. Or you can get 3 tickets for $50.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can get 10 for $100. That's the best deal going right there. And if you visit the TWRF website, twrf.net or
raffle.twrf.net.
If you visit there, you'll see the countdown. You'll know exactly how many more days you've got to go. And anyway, you get all the details there on their website. And the money that gets collected from that, our foundation is there to support our agency. And last year's winnings went a long ways to help do the federal matching dollars. A lot of times we get dollars from the federal government to do wildlife habitat and buy land sometimes and a lot of different things. But there's a catch to that federal money. You got to have a match. Right. Usually a 25% match to make that happen. So this really helps and helps. Really, you can count that each of those dollars ends up being about $4. So
yeah,
wow, that's amazing. I did not realize that.
Yeah,
there you go.
So they'll just to make sure I'm clear. So for every dollar, in essence, it matches up to $4.
Yeah,
from the federal government. Well, I mean, I don't know about everybody else watching, but obviously, I live here, fish here, hunt here, and so anything that I do that goes back to what I love to do, and not just myself, my family and friends and everybody else. I mean, what a great way that I could spend. Personally, I'm gonna obviously spend the $100 and get I want to better my odds.
Yeah.
I've already got 4 set up with Todd, so I want to better my odds to maybe win 5. But the fact that hey, I'm gonna give $100, I have a chance to win this. But even probably more than likely, I'm not going to win based on my past history of luck. But the fact that my 100 now becomes 400, and that gets collected all together and goes to helping protect and also grow what I love to do and where I live. I mean.
Right.
Where do you get that? I blow $100 on a weekend and I have no idea where it's at or what I've done with it. Or I'll take my family out to eat and there you
go. That's $100.
Yeah.
Right there.
So self-risk promotion. Yeah. I've already won 4 guys. You only have 6 chances, but it's still a good feeling.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. Last year, Brad Snedeker, the professional golfer, he got the elk. Or he was the first one drawn, so he chose the elk, and then he passed it on to a wounded veteran, and so that was pretty cool.
Wow, that is awesome.
He said, I just wanted to support. I didn't even want to win, but he ended up winning and passed it on. So
how incredible is that? I can tell you right now, if I win the truck, I may pass it on. The boat, I mean, you're really going to be testing my generosity. But anyway, still a great cause.
Yeah.
And it goes to everybody that's listening here. It goes back. I mean, it goes back to your home state. So
yep, exactly.
What a fantastic way to do it.
Well, last week, ledge fishing, we're going to elaborate more and talk more about some other baits and things you could use. But recap real quick, and we'll jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. So last week I wound up talking too much. I take full responsibility. But there's so much with ledge fishing or offshore, and just to make it easier or to scale it down where we can at least try to fit it in this time frame. Really what I'm talking about ledge fishing is anything you're fishing that you don't see the bank. You're not throwing to something toward the bank, near the bank. This is going to be off the bank. It still could be in a creek. It just could be a hump or out in the creek, or it could be the creek channel. It could be the main river channel. And that's really what we're going to kind of dial this in or book in the conversation is we're talking about Kentucky Lake ledges, which again are legendary across the country and across the world. And we're going to talk about current. And so really when we talk baits and how we're fishing or what we're fishing, those are our conditions. Other things that we talk about, again, we're throwing toward the bank, and so it's much easier. But this, just for context, is we're talking about Kentucky Lake ledges, and we're talking about summertime, and we're talking about current flow. Just as we go through these, keep that in your mind. That is condition that we're fishing. There's a million different conditions, but we're going to have to try to squeeze it all in.
Narrow it down, yeah.
Yeah. So we hit last time about crankbaits. We talked about deep diving crankbaits. We talked about anywhere between baits with rattles. We talked about baits that did not have rattles that were silent. And then we also talked about big flutter spoons.
And little spoons.
And little.
Well, that was relative to the.
Yeah,
to the
I mean, what's funny
there.
is that typically when I used to fish spoons, it was super cold. Little 1.5, 2 inch spoons.
Yeah, little small guy.
But offshore ledge fishing, you're talking. This is the 5-inch Strike King flutter spoon, and then this is the Castaic Ben Parker Magnum flutter spoon, which I think is a 7 or 8 inch bait. So look, we hit on those. But what we kind of hit real fast on, those are reactionary bites. And those are baits that are going to cause those fish to their predatory instincts to kick in. They're going to bite it because they think it's a bait or they just want to kill it.
But then you said they get conditioned sometimes to some of those.
That's 100%
and you gotta
correct.
change it up a little bit.
You do. So when they first slide out there and all the fishermen start getting out, you can those more aggressive type baits. You can catch them. As they get later on in the season, they've seen a bunch of that. Or the only other caveat to be would when you hit that school and you pounded on them and you've got all the fish on aggressive baits that you can, then you come back with less aggressive. And what I mean by that is that's going to be your jigs, your soft plastics, your slow-moving baits. That's really where that kind of comes into play. So right after, once you catch them all out of school and they slow down, move to those baits. Or later on in the season, I'll give you an example. So middle of July, when I go to my first spot, I'll take the first 3 or 4 casts and I'll try something to maybe try to pick up that 1 or 2 more aggressive fish. And then when I'm fishing that spot or that school, I throw them down and then just focus on bottom or slow-moving baits. And that's what we're going to hit on today. So we're going to talk jig heads. We're going to talk the soft plastics. And they're also going to talk about one other cool product that is going to help you when you catch those deeper fish and you're bringing them up.
Okay.
And some of the things you got to deal with. All right. We good? We're going to hop right in?
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. So
Football time.
yeah, we're going to talk about 3 different types of jig heads. This is, if you can see it on the screen, it's just it's a souped up shaky head.
Okay.
All right, we're all familiar with the shaky head, that 1/8 ounce or 1/4 ounce ball type head, and you put a worm on that and you fish that. This is the same version, it's just beefier. It's a 3/4 ounce. It's got a 6/0 hook, so it is a big
hook.
It's a big meaty presentation, and you throw this on the bottom. I call it the stupid head. You throw it out, and you ain't got to be smart. You throw it out, and you just slowly drag it. And that's how you catch them. It's a slow-moving presentation. It's in their face. You throw it in their house. They're not going to bite it necessarily out of aggression or being hungry. They may, but again, you're not triggering that reaction strike. A lot of the times, it just comes by their face. And their natural instinct is, again, they don't, my favorite saying is they don't have thumbs. Right? They don't have hands, so the only way they're going to do it, they're just going to bite it. And so this is great. And you can throw anything on the back of it. You can throw this is Zoom Old Monster worm. You can Texas rig this worm. In this scenario, we're talking about putting it on a jig head, but it's kind of a staple. I mean, the Zoom Old Monster, that's what you throw. I will throw in one tip. If you're on Kentucky Lake, summertime, if you're not throwing the plum color, you're missing the boat.
You plumb missed the boat.
You plumb missed it if you're not throwing plum. Free tip, you're welcome. But throw plum in summertime. Pretty much, I mean, I say Kentucky Lake, but pretty much anywhere that color just gets bit. Again, if somebody figures out why and can tell me scientifically I'm in, all I know is it works. So make sure you've got
Don't know if
plum.
it's true, but it happened to me.
I could not have said it better myself. That's a shaky head worm. Same type of presentation. This is just in the football style. So if you're fishing more rock bottom or you're fishing shell beds, it's a great way. And the shaky head that I showed first works great. But if you can see, it has a more arrowhead type shape. There you go. And so if you're fishing around bigger rock, these have a tendency to they dig in.
Wedged.
Yeah, wedge. There you go. Where a football, how'd you like that?
Oh, yeah.
Football. You're welcome, Todd. Try to fix it. Edit that out. My hillbilly coming out in me. A football head, again, has that oblong shape, and so it works much better in rock, and we've talked about that before. Same thing, just a different head. All right, this is a football head, but it's called a wobble head. And for what that is, it is the football head style, but the hook actually attaches to a, what would you call that, another hook? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It's basically you have a free swinging hook.
It's kind of like a swivel, but not really.
And this can be fished a lot of different ways. You can slowly drag it. Most of the time, the way you want to fish this is you want to fish it real slow. You fish it like a crankbait, only slower. So what happens, this is dragging, I'm sorry, not dragging, but you're slowly reeling this, and it's hopping, it's bouncing. And so you don't want to necessarily just keep it on the bottom the whole time, but it's swimming along and it's bouncing and it's creating that action. And because of that pivot point, you get much more action out of your bait because it's free swinging.
I can see that.
Cool.
Called a wobble head. These are absolutely killer on the ledges at Old Hickory. Take a Strike King called a Rage Menace. Basically just a real small, it's a smaller scaled down version of a creature bait, and it's just got 2 little flappers on the back. It's very, it's not aggressive. It's pretty subtle, and on this thing, it's just absolutely killer.
Wow, 2 tips, one night.
Yes, do not tell everybody. I'm just kidding. Tell everybody. I don't care. We're going to talk about the one thing we always consistently talk about for some reason, somehow on this show. Probably one of my favorite, just because it's so versatile in every scale, is the Tokyo rig. Fish it the same way you do the other stuff. Just I put a 3/4 ounce weight, a half to 3/4 on the bottom of it, and then you can turn around and you can put a big worm on it, or you can put a crawl type bait. You can just put a straight stick worm on the back. However, I say this every time, just experiment.
Yeah.
If you're throwing it and you're in a spot where there's fish and you throw it 3 or 4 times, 5 times, you're not getting anything, soft plastics are cheap. Mm-hmm. Pull it off, throw another one on there until you figure out. And here's the great thing. Once you figure out for the day really what they're keyed on, because there's a lot of reasons why they're keyed on it. We don't have time to go into barometric pressure. We don't have time to go into pre, post, front, all that stuff. Long story short is once they get dialed into it for that specific day, unless there's a big change of the weather that day, that's what they're on. And so once you get it figured out, hey, they want a 12-inch worm. You keep throwing a 12-inch worm, and you're going to get bit no matter where you go. Or maybe they want something small. Maybe a little 4-inch, Berkeley pit boss, or a sweet beaver, or whatever, just a small creature bait. They're focused, or the bait that they're chasing is a smaller profile. Once you do that, you can bounce around other spots in the lake, and it's going to get bit. So just experiment, have fun with it. Don't take it too serious. I can always talk about myself and not get in trouble. I am the most guilty person on the planet for taking it way too serious. I forget it's supposed to be fun. Right? If you guys know this or not, it's supposed to be enjoyable. And I have a tendency to overcomplicate it and miss the fun in it. Mm-hmm. And don't do that. Don't do that. Enjoy it. Experiment with it. And if you don't catch anything, then you didn't catch anything.
Go back next week.
Yeah. Keep trying. We talked about that Tokyo rig. Put whatever you want to on the back of it. A really great bait this time of year, especially when it gets a little bit later during the offshore season. All that means is it's the shad, especially on the Tennessee, the TVA, the gizzard shad. Mm-hmm. All right, you got threadfin shad, and you got gizzard shad. Gizzard shad, they can get 10, 12 inches. They can get really good size. As it gets later, they continue to grow, obviously, and so the later part of that offshore season, those gizzard shad are getting bigger, and it's a great time to throw a big swim bait. And it's not a lot of fun to fish. I'll tell you. You throw it out and slowly roll it. It's not a lot of action. It's a lazy man way to fish.
But it's a simpler way.
It is. It is much simpler. If you're one of those guys, I'm high strung. So I want move and shake, and I'm just wide open. It forces me to slow down. But it is a simpler way to fish, and for guys that are not like me that enjoy a more methodical way. All right, just a slower paced. Mm-hmm. Swim baits are killer because you're going to catch the biggest fish typically in the school because you're throwing something like this, which is a Yum Money Minnow. This is the 5-inch version. I throw a 5, a 6, and a 7-inch version. It's a big bait. Mm-hmm. And typically you're going to catch some really big fish with it. I like the Yum Money Minnow. I use it typically on this head. This is what's called an underspin. Basically, it's just a big jig head. This has got I believe a 5/0. And then it's got this little spinner or blade on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And all it does is it just gives it a little bit more flash. I've got some that are built like this with the blade. Then I have some without the blade. Mm-hmm. And it just really depends on, again, experiment, guys. You're throwing it
see which one works.
Yeah, you're throwing it without the blade, the flash on it, not getting bit. Then just cut, retie, throw on with the blade, see if that changes things.
I always like a blade.
I personally, I like it. It makes me feel like I'm adding another layer.
Yeah.
Another attractant to it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that it could be too much. And so that's why I like to have both. But 9 times out of 10, every time, I'm going to pick up with the blade on it. And then from there, I'll scale back. Because, again, I want to layer every advantage I possibly can. Sight, sound, scent, all of those senses that the fish have. I want to tap into as many as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And then I'll scale back if I'm too aggressive and it just doesn't look natural. So swim baits, throw them out, let them hit the bottom, slowly reel them. Really that simple. You can change it up a little bit, and we'll hit on it now.
Sure.
It's called stroking. It started with called stroking a jig. All right, so 3/4 ounce jig. Everybody knows how to fish a jig. If not, go back and watch this show, YouTube it. Anyway, we won't spend a lot of time on it. But what happens is when times are on the Tennessee River where they're not pulling a bunch of current, all right, so it's just there's very little current flow. You've got to try to get them fish, if they're not aggressive, they're not hungry, you gotta get their brain triggered, right? And then so to do that, a jig coming by, in his mind, it's just a slow crawl dad. If he's not really feel like feeding, he's probably not going to do anything. But you take that, and when you stroke a jig, what you're doing is you're allowing some line to get out, so you got some slack, and then I am going to swing it straight up as hard as I'm setting the hook. But all I'm doing is I'm snapping that slack, and what happens is right at the time of the jig coming, so I'm set the hook style, all that slack gets picked up, and right there at the very end, the jig will shoot off the bottom straight up like a rocket. And I don't move it very far because all I'm doing is I'm just snapping that slack, and that jig will shoot right off the bottom and then slowly come back down. And what happens when you get bit is on two scenarios. When you first pop it and it hops off the bottom real aggressively straight up, instinct. He just snaps over and grabs it. Can't help himself. Or what will happen is, if say they're suspended about a couple 2 or 3 feet off the bottom, when it hits its peak and starts coming back down, that's when they'll hit it. It is a great bite. It is super aggressive. They're not biting necessarily because they're hungry. It's just their predatory instinct kicks in. Just kind of like when you get hit in the knee when they're checking your reflexes at the doctor. Same exact thing. You can't people. Yeah, you can't help it. Same thing in their mind. That thing snap. It's the same way you fish a spoon, by the way. On a flutter spoon, you do the exact same thing. You have some slack, and you are going straight up with it, really aggressively, and you're pulling all that slack. And at the very end is when your bait shoots up. You don't want to do that when you've got your line tight, and you try to do that. What you do is you wind up pulling that jig 8 or 10 feet away. You want that bait to shoot straight up. Only move. You're going to move forward some. It's just natural physics and momentum, a foot or two. But you want that thing going straight up. And the same thing with the spoon. You want to go straight up. The spoon bite is a lot of fun. What's hard about the spoon bite is you're not going to you're going to feel the bite, but it's not going to be a big thump, because when they usually hit a flutter spoon is you'll hit it and it'll come up the bottom, shoot straight out the bottom, and it'll start to flutter down. As soon as it starts to flutter is when you get hit. Or they'll hit it on the way up and you'll miss the bite, and all of a sudden you just feel that thing get real heavy. Dude, it's a ton of fun. It's an absolute ton of fun. It can be frustrating because this is, I think, an ounce. And I believe the Magnum spoon is 2. Don't quote me on that, but somewhere in that range.
It's heavier than that.
Yeah, it does.
And so, and it may be. I'm just strictly going off memory. Todd, maybe we have to edit that out because I'm way off. But I think it's somewhere in that range. But what happens is they bite the hook, and then the problem is you got all this weight.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll jump. And that thing will actually work almost like a plug knocker. If you guys ever get hung up and you drop a plug knocker down and try to get your bait out of a tree, the spoons will actually act like a plug knocker and hit the top of that and pop it out. You're going to lose them. Rattle trap fishing. We've all fished a rattle trap or that type of bait. Have a tendency to lose some. It's just because there's a really big pivot point for them to shake it loose. But anyway. How we doing on time? We good?
We got about 3 minutes.
3 minutes. All right, so we're going to hurry up. Hog Farmer. This is a wobble bait. We won't go into a lot of the specifics of it, but it's a great bait to team up with the Castaic. I believe this is called the Jerky J. Guys, I'm going to tell you, it is like reeling in a tennis shoe. It's big. But it
catches fish.
And it catches massive amount of fish, and it catches big ones. This is actually a real big Tennessee River secret. That is no joke. There has been more tournaments won, big tournaments on the TVA chain, using this exact setup, the Jerky J with the Hog Farmer. This is the 1 ounce. You got 3/4 to 1 ounce. It's not a ton of fun to fish because it is. You're It's a lot of resistance as you bring it in. But, dear Lord, it's a ton of fun when they bite it. The big ones. All right, so we'll talk real quick on the soft plastic side of things. For the Tokyo rig, any worm, I'm a big fan of the Tokyo rig with the missile baits. This is the 6.5-inch quiver. It's a fantastic setup. You can fish it deep or shallow. Obviously, we're talking about fishing it deep. It's a fantastic bait to use. One thing I don't have it out here with us, but I do need to mention it. If you're fishing out deep and you're not getting bit, just pick up the ball and chain, tie on the Carolina rig, and again, I get you. It's not that much fun to fish. It's just throw it out and drag it back, but it's the one thing that will consistently get bit offshore. Because if they're aggressive or if they're domiciled, they're gonna bite the Carolina rig. It's just it's too easy of a meal for them. They're going to bite it. So I tell all this, if you've got one rig you're going to go out and fish deeper with, tie on a Carolina rig. You can never go wrong. On the back of it, you can use a straight tail worm, or if they're a little bit more aggressive, let's say they're pulling some current. The standard has always been the brush hog, the Zoom brush hog, the full size one. Guys, you're going to get bit. I get it. It's the ball and chain. They call that for a reason, but it just works. So, we'll talk about that. You can always throw the D-bomb or a creature bait on the back of a Carolina rig. I use the D-bomb on the back of my jigs. A lot of fun. Kind of talked about the staple, which is a Zoom.
Is that the color you talked about? No, plum was the color.
Plum is the color. This is June bug. I mean, it's June bug, green pumpkin are the staples any time of the year. Plum in the summertime it outshines them a little bit, but you can still catch them on this.
Yeah.
The other thing we'll talk about real quick is venting your fish. All that means is when you're pulling them up from being deeper, you hook them at 25 feet and you just crank on them and you pull them straight off the bottom. What happens a lot of times if they've been down there for a while is that their swim bladder, which basically controls their buoyancy, that's what takes them up and down, doesn't have time to acclimate to the pressure, right? So as you come up, that air expands, right? When you're down low, it gets tight. All the pressure, as you come up, it expands. If you've ever scuba diving, you know what I'm talking about. Well, you have to do something for that fish. If not, it'll kill them. So a company called Ventafish, ventafish.com, made a tool. It's just, if you can see, that's a hypodermic needle. You can just get a plain hypodermic needle. Won't have the time to go into how to do it. YouTube it, super simple. You go in, and all you're doing is you're letting the air out.
Pressure.
Yes, sir. It just gets that pressure so that fish won't die.
Yeah.
You don't want to kill them. If that's turn me back up. That's tournament fishing. If you're going to put them in a live well, if you're out fishing and you're going to catch them and throw them right back, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because all he's going to, you catch them, reel them up, look at them, take a picture, and you throw them back in. He's going straight back to the bottom, and obviously to decompress that swim bladder. So that's only for if you're going to keep them tournament fishing. Hypodermic needle. Jason Holland Fishing. Check me out. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Don't forget the three main things: it's your faith, it's your family, and your fishing. Thanks again, guys. I love coming and doing the show. It's one of my favorite things to do. So thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And hopefully I didn't mess up too bad and I get back and invite it again. So
we'll see.
maybe.
No, thanks for watching. Thank you, Jason. We'll see you next time.